Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 6 of Zipline, the official Zipper Interactive podcast. We're going to make a joke about Return of the Jedi.
No, we've done it so many episodes
Well, now
in a
it's
row
done
now.
anyway. Go ahead.
Return of the Jedi.
I'm Chris Roper.
I'm Jeremy Denham. And today...
Jeremy is a little sick, by the way, so...
Does it show?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Especially since you're lying in a gurney and...
Yeah, well, you know, I was here. I was in the hallway. I figured I'd use it. We're here with CJ Heine. He's our senior designer here at Zipper. Been here a long time. Worked on MAG, worked on SOCOM, all of the SOCOMs, right?
All of them, yes.
Yeah, that's how he's the man to talk to for your SOCOM and MAG questions. And since he's here to do that, we're not going to ask him anything. First, we're going to hit our Z-cap.
The first thing we want to talk about in... well, actually, you should... This is it's more special to you than me, because I'm only half on this one.
Okay. Well, at the beginning of the week, two of our favorite shows were lost forever. Ironically, one of them was called Lost, and the other one was 24. They're two awesome programs. If it's okay with you guys, I'd like to have a moment of silence to remember our fallen friends.
All right, back to the actual news going on here.
I wasn't done.
All right.
No, go ahead.
One thing that actually a very cool announcement that we just made yesterday is that Barry McCreary is providing the official, or orchestrating and conducting and all that, the soundtrack for SOCOM 4. You probably best know his work from Battlestar Galactica, which was, I don't know if actually any physical awards given out, but critically acclaimed left and right. Very cool stuff he did on there. He's also worked on Caprica, Trauma, the Terminator TV series. He worked on Dark Void. They're right down the street from us. And what's kind of cool is if you go to io9.com right now, they're running a contest where you can win to get flown out to a recording session to see part of the SOCOM 4 soundtrack recorded live in front of you. You can run out there with an air guitar and do your best AC/DC while and mess up our game.
So go get those details so you have that chance.
Yep, io9.com.
That's right.
Are the Zipper employees allowed to do that? I'd love to go.
You can try, but I don't think you're going to get picked.
Yep.
I have no control over that. Chris does. Talk to him.
I got nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. So the other big news we announced this week is that our next patch, 106, is coming out in June. It has a ton of fixes and upgrades that you guys have been asking for quite some time. We have medal and ribbon requirement updates, progress bars for those medals. We've eliminated knife damage to teammates, and you don't get bonuses for shooting teammates in the heads anymore. We kind of use the same damage modifier on everybody.
All that should help with team killing.
Yeah, team killing should go by the wayside. We've also improved a little the vehicle physics and handling. We've modified the XP rewards for healing. So now, if you heal someone halfway, you get 5 XP. You only get the full 10 XP if you have a full revive going on. We've also done a whole bunch of weapon tweaks for pistols, machine pistols, SMGs, shotguns. We've added 3 new gun ports to the APCs. We've done a ton of stuff. Credit cost adjustments, we've lowered them all, so now you can fit more in your loadout. Various bug fixes. I think another biggie is that we've increased our download speeds as well, so that whenever you are making some kind of an update, you should get it much faster. What I think will stand out most for a lot of people, though, is that once 106 is out, it will allow people to experience new versions of our older maps, because 106 actually allows us to patch our existing maps in a much easier way than we're currently doing. Mm-hmm. I'm sure CJ can talk to this later in the episode.
Talk to Slater,
yeah.
AC?
Saved by the Bell. That's right. I'm Zach. You're Elizabeth Hurley.
A little bit of news that relates to this in some fashion is that you remember a few weeks ago, Jeremy, this was your brainchild, the Influence Mag program. And basically what we did was put up this poll, and we said the overarching idea is we pull up a poll, say, what do you guys want to do with such and such feature? You get to vote on it. If there's enough votes, we'll change what it was. The first one was time for domination matches, and it was, do you want to keep it at 30 minutes or reduce it to either 25 or 20? There was an overwhelming numbers, which was somewhere around 80% of the vote was voted to keep it at 30 minutes. So it's staying put. Nothing changed, but it still shows you that you can do things by voting. Rock the vote.
That's right. CJ was going to change it to 5 minutes, so you saved it.
Well, the original version was like an hour.
An hour, really?
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that the guys queuing up and really wanting to get into that game type could get the most out of it. But over time, we found that was just too grueling. We'd have these really long playtest sessions internally, and by the end, people were just so stressed out. We found that we needed breaks, so the time got shorter and shorter. That's what we ended up with, 30 minutes.
And it looks like that's a sweet spot, because 4 out of 5 people said that's what we want. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that both Chris and myself are going to be at E3 along with several other zippers. Are you going to E3?
I'm not this year.
You're not going?
No.
No. Fine.
It's a tiny little tier.
But we're going. This will be my 12th E3 in a row. How many for you? Or not in a row, but ever. I skipped 99.
8. I think this is 8.
8th. So we've been to a lot of E3s. We're going to this one, and we're going to be looking for you guys while we're there. That's a bit of a hint on what we're going to be doing once we're at the show, but we'll have more on that in a future episode.
And of course, SOCOM will have a presence there. One thing that we want to talk about is that we are going to be there. We're going to have SOCOM 4 will obviously be our big focus of the show. One cool thing is that back at GDC, we showed the game during the kind of Move presentation and afterwards. So that's where people have... And then the Move has gone on tour around to Seattle and all these other places. But at E3 will be your first time to play SOCOM 4 with a DualShock 3, but you can also still play with the Move. So you can go between the two, see what the differences are. We're having a lot of booths set up in there. That should be pretty cool. We're actually going to do, Jeremy, when you and I get in there, we're going to try to take some covert operation photos of the booth being set up. So look for those things on the blog on the SOCOM blog.
That's right, and most importantly is I think when you guys do play it and get a chance to see it, it's an all new level, something you didn't see from GDC. Brand new level. We've been playing through it a lot, every day, actually.
Yeah.
And every day it's an improvement over the previous one, so we think you're going to like what you see.
Yep.
Also, before we move into this week's Q&A with CJ, wanted to give you a bit of a heads up. We want to add a little bit more...
Flair,
je ne sais quoi, to our podcast every week. So starting next week, we're going to start running audio questions and comments on our podcast. There's not going to be a lot of them. We're probably going to do about maybe 1 or 2 a week. So I guess, in other words, the audio questions are going to be the ones that we probably deemed the most important or relevant for the week. So if you want to have that option, you want to hear your voice, then all you have to do is send an email to Zipline at zipperint.com. Send us an MP3 file. It has to be MP3. Your question has to be 10 seconds or less. And also make sure that you do a few other things in the text form, Chris. You had a few requests.
Write the question that you submit in text form as well. It helps us go through them faster. And then also, if we don't choose yours to get played on the air, we might still just read it as a regular question.
If it's really funny, though, we'll listen to it in private over and over again.
Yes.
CJ?
Yeah.
Q&A time. I was going to ask you the first question, but I'll let Chris do it so that I can breathe for a second.
Yeah, you need some medicine. What about the little bee that flies around with Antonio Banderas?
Yes,
I think he helps you.
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, Antonio. CJ, you've been here for almost 9 years now. On your Zipper profile that we ran on the Mag and SOCOM blogs on Monday, you mentioned that you came in the original SOCOM. And can you talk a little bit about what has kind of changed over the years going in from when you came in here from the first one all the way up to 4 now? And I know a lot of the fans on the forums are big SOCOM 2 fans, as you are yourself. Can you talk about, I guess, over the years of SOCOM development, but also specifically to SOCOM 2 and what kind of that compared to nowadays?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. So, way back when, there was only 3 or 4 designers at Zipper. I mean, now we've got a whole conference room full of them for these morning meetings that we do. But at the time, it was pretty small group, and it was split up. So we had a lot of guys working on levels in addition to systems, and a lot of the multiplayer stuff was not even really prioritized by any one person. It was just kind of whoever had time. This is going back to the old SOCOM stuff. Yeah, it was. We had a very different set of tools back then. Doing a lot of top-down 2D, clicking on little boxes on grids, and setting up AI and triggers and things like that. So it was slow to iterate. Very primitive tools on a small team. It's pretty amazing that they put the game together the way they did. Getting into SOCOM 2, that's more of when I took into stepped into the design role, and I worked a lot as the multiplayer designer for that.
So a lot of people will be applauding you right now.
Maybe it depends. Yeah, I stepped in and I took over from somebody that was going out for maternity leave at the time, and the big focus for SOCOM 2 was to really build up the community features. We stumbled into a pretty big success with SOCOM's online community, and the extremely loyal and rabid group of fans, and we wanted to do more to encourage them to keep playing and give them ways to communicate and form up clans and groups online. The multiplayer side of that was a lot of fun to work on. Got to do all of the the multiplayer maps, the favorites like Crossroads and Sandstorm and Fox Hunt. There's a lot of really fun ones in there, and we got to try hands with some more open terrain, like in the Fox Hunt map, and relying a lot on foliage for cover. And we wanted to make sure we had a nice variety of maps in the first game. There's a lot more. The maps are generally smaller, and with SOCOM II, we wanted to make sure that we allowed for the snipers to have some really nice open maps to take advantage of, and the close quarter guys to take cover. And
was that your goal for SOCOM II? I mean, when you went in, what was your goal for creating the game that you made? Was there a certain type of philosophy or pillar that you guys were looking at, saying this is what the idea behind SOCOM II should be, and this is what we're shooting for?
On the multiplayer side, the main goal was to not alter the formula too much. We had a pretty short development window for SOCOM II comparatively. And, it was our chance to quickly turn over some new maps and take advantage of some of the successes that we had in the original SOCOM. So we wanted to stay true to the formula, nice mix of like a Counter-Strike, slightly faster paced, arcadey version of run and gun shooter.
As I kind of hinted at, you mentioned in your profile that you are a SOCOM II elitist, but then at the same time you said that SOCOM IV has the most potential of anything that you've seen thus far to be something really amazing, and I guess on the level of SOCOM II. A lot of people took that statement by you, being that you are such a big SOCOM II fan, to be a little bit of a reassurance. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Oh, that's great. I'm currently working on some SOCOM IV missions. One of them was a multiplayer. I'm working on several single-player missions, and when I say amazing, it's largely the production value and the introduction of the move. The move is going to have a really big impact on the game. What I've seen so far, it offers a unique way to play it, and one of the things that's really cool for me is when you're playing with the DualShock, a lot of times you'll have shots firing at the reticle that kind of spray off to the sides. And basically that's us simulating a shaky arm or unstable weapon. But with the move, we're able to adjust and tune the weapon slightly differently. So it really is your arm shaking, and it's your own instability that's causing your shots not to fire dead center. Mm-hmm. So what that does is it introduces a lot of player skill back into the shooter, which is awesome.
Right.
You were a big part of the MAG's design process also, and what were your main responsibilities on that game? Because a lot of people, the credits, lead designer. What is it that you did in that game before it came out, and now that we're in the MAG Live process of the project, where do you do with it now?
With MAG, I started for the first several years as the lead level designer. That primarily just meant working with the early, not really pre-production, but I stepped in during the production portion of setting up all the missions. And it wasn't until the last...
Missions, I'm sorry, just missions being modes.
Specific... I mean, it was the game modes,
right.
But also the missions themselves. So getting into where the missions take place, who's defending each one of them, how that defensive faction's flavor is represented in the map, positioning of bunkers, basically anything that is in those maps is a result of the level design. Mm-hmm. Not specifically me, but one of the other level designers and environment artists. So let me get back to the MAG thing. So by the end of the project, I had taken over for somebody that had left, and at that point, it was mostly just fielding the easy questions that came through. They just needed somebody to call the shots for some of the last minute changes and additions. Really, I think the biggest thing that I did in that very final phase was approve the Platinum Trophy icon, which is awesome. That art is done by one of our designers here, Joe Maris, and I know that not a lot of people have seen the Platinum Trophy or earned it, but if you can, go online and take a look at it. It's a pretty awesome little dude.
Our creative director, Ed Byrne, mentioned last week that you have a ton of Legos. They're in your office. They're actually in your profile photo that we have on your blog entry earlier in the week. What do you do with all those things? And is it true that he said that you had built some kind of mag-oriented base out of them, or you were building them? What is that? Any truth to that?
I had started to build a Raven bunker, and I've got they're the tool that you can use to build these things virtually, and I actually made pretty good progress on it. But when I got into work and started building it, that was right around when we were doing some serious crunch mode on Mag, and so the time just wasn't there. So it's just kind of half finished, and some of the other designers stopped by and put flowers and trees on top of it, and it just all fell apart. Originally, I brought him in just to get him away from my daughter, but now I've got to think about bringing him home to get him away from the other designers.
I now challenge you to make OpsCom before SOCOM 4 ships.
Oh, we've actually
using only Legos.
We've actually got somebody who's already doing that.
Very good.
Yep,
That's pretty awesome.
hopefully he'll be on here one week.
Let's get to our first reader question.
Hard-hitting question.
Hard
this
hitting.
one.
Jeremy ordered these, so blame him for this one right off the bat. But I do think it's an important one, though.
It is.
Kubi Kameho asks, "What is your favorite ice cream?"
Oh, God, man. I knew you'd hit me with a hard one.
We're starting off soft ice cream. Seeing how I did
soft
that?
serve.
That's right.
Nice. With a little chocolate dip. Go to Dairy Queen. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's all right. I gotta say with Cherry Garcia, Ben and Jerry's.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
I like the Chubby Hubby.
Chubby Hubby.
Yeah, you know what that is?
No.
It's it's been a long time.
It's me, if you ask my wife.
It's amazingly fattening. It's like if you eat the whole thing, it's incredible. But it's like chocolate covered pretzels and peanut butter and vanilla and chocolate ice cream, something like that.
Man.
It's amazing.
Yeah, the pretzels make that.
Yeah.
My answer is just the very standard, boring old strawberry. That's me.
Yeah.
So I don't have any cool catchphrase from Ben and Jerry's to add to it. But I can ask Super Fanboy's question, which is, what does CJ stand for? Is it Carl Johnson from San Andreas?
Man, I usually don't tell friends what my name stands for, but Carl is in common. Yeah. Yeah, Carl Jeremy is my real name.
Wow.
It's a family name. Yeah, I let you in on a big secret.
Sweet. That's my first name. If it makes you feel any better, my middle name is Brandon.
Really?
Now we're revealing secrets.
All right, Super Fanboy, you know something that not a lot of other people know.
Well,
Plus
not
anybody
thousands
else.
of other people.
Yeah.
Partner asks, he says, Travis Steiner, SOCOM 4's lead designer, he was on our first episode of Zipline.
Episode 1.
He said that some people on the dev team preferred the old cover system compared to the new one, the fact that a cover system actually exists. And he wants to know which one you prefer and why.
Yeah, I am one of the people that prefers the old, if you could even call it a cover system. For people not familiar with the older SOCOMs, the cover system just consisted of pressing right or left in the D-pad, ducking. You'd kind of lean to the left and right. It allowed for a lot more fast movement, more agile moving around, great for close quarters. It's great for snipers too, being able to back up behind a cover object, lean a little to the side and take a shot. That's not to say that the new cover system isn't effective. I mean, it just offers a different type of play style. It's for the more methodical, move in, take cover, make sure you're not hit, pop up just totally unseen and cap the guy running at you. So it's a completely different play style. I grew up on the old SOCOM, so that's generally what I prefer.
Plus, you helped make it, so you're biased.
Bias.
Pimco Pilgrim wants to know what your opinion is on the current discussions about mag map balance. Do you think that Sever's maps are unfair for attackers, particularly, as many have claimed? Please be as detailed as you can. And I think this is actually a question that a lot of people who argue about this would love to hear an answer to.
Yeah. Map balance is well, first off, map balance is kind of a tricky one to nail, especially with a game like Mag where there are so many factors that you have to take into account. Number of players, the number of players in organized communicating clans or squads, just how present one faction is over another. Getting into a map with 128 Sever and only 80 or so Valor in the first couple of minutes, it's going to throw things one way or the other. But what makes that difficult is you start seeing numbers on wins and losses on these things, and it's really easy to overreact or just react to to those numbers and want to try to go in there and fix or balance the map. And but you can't go off of that necessarily. I mean, if that same group of really good Sever characters, all veteran mode and one over to Valor, is it the player skill that they brought to that map enough to
to even things out?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a tricky one to keep tabs on. It's just one of those reasons why we haven't had a lot of fixes out there. We wanted to make sure that the player base all hit max level. That was another thing to factor in. Is it generally seemed like the Sever maps were a little easier to defend, meaning that it takes a little bit less communication, player skill to be as effective as an organized attacking force. So what that resulted in was a lot of Sever characters leveling up more quickly than the other ones, and having access to additional health, resistances. That just escalates the problem where Sever, specifically, got to higher levels more quickly.
And I have an additional theory about this, especially in the beginning.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
Well, in the beginning, when we had our pre-order incentives, each retailer had different armors, right? GameStop and Amazon and Game Crazy. Most of those pre-orders, in terms of percentages, went towards the GameStop side between those retailers. And if you have most of these people using their pre-order bonus armor at the time, which was more powerful than medium, not as powerful as heavy, but still pretty good in between, then that's giving them also an advantage in the battlefield, and that was the Sever armor. So I think you compound that and the fact that Sever was also a very big faction that for some reason or another was chosen during the beta phase. People already were kind of gravitating into it. A lot of the better players started off there. I think you put that in there, and that also had a heavy bearing on the beginning.
Yeah, you ended up with a lot of players that had been in the beta all focusing towards Sever at launch, and that immediately kind of threw things out of whack. And so it gave, even if it's not necessarily true, it gave the Sever maps the impression that they are way more difficult to attack and way too easy to defend. I mean, we do have data to back all this up that, the Sever maps generally are easier to win as a defender. In some cases, it's pretty drastic.
But we've already taken a bit of a step towards this, right? With our first fix, we repaired a few of the few things that we didn't like in the sabotage map, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we're also working on other things in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Just to talk to Serdaria a little bit, one of the things that we set out to do in that was not necessarily to rebalance the map just because of the factors that I mentioned earlier. It's to take the areas that we found not to be fun or enjoyable and focusing on fixing those. And in turn, those have a side effect of also altering balance. So blocking the long sight line outside the B objective along the sniper ridge, putting a tree in the way, adjusting some of the buildings there, makes it easier for the attackers to drop into the map than it was previously. And that's one of those things where more attackers have success going in that route. All of a sudden, B becomes slightly easier to do. So we don't go about adjusting balance directly. It's an indirect result of making parts of the maps more fun.
Nitros 76. He says, what are the chances that the current MAG vote to kick system will be changed or improved?
That's a really good one. I haven't talked to the MAG Live lead lately. I would say that it's something worth looking at. I mean, with the adjustments to the friendly fire, so with the knife kills and headshots, it's probably next up on the radar of things that can be griefed. I've personally been kicked out. I find that insane. I jumped into a game of it was actually on the Sever 256, and I was the only guy not in this clan of 7 guys. Mm-hmm. They weren't talking to me; they're talking to each other, and I don't know what they were doing. They weren't working on any of the objectives, so I kept going around. I destroyed the bunker. It went out. I took out the bunker. It got repaired later because they didn't push forward. I took out the bunker again, single-handedly. It's not easy. These guys eventually all voted to kick me. I had the most experience. I'd taken out the bunkers, actually pushed the objectives. So I get how frustrating that is to be vote kicked out of these things. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing they were probably just doing it to make room for their 8th clanmate to join up with them. But there's no reason behind it. It's just out of the blue. So if it's not already on somebody's radar, I'll make sure to let them know.
And target them specifically. You're going to find that clan. You're going to hunt them down. You're going to do what to them? What are you going to do to them? Azure Edge wants to know if there's any chance we'll ever see a downloadable MAG single-player campaign, or maybe an extended training mode with bots of some kind.
Well, that'd be pretty cool. I'm going to have to give the cop-out answer. It's one of those things that I think we'd all like to see, and it's certainly something that, some point down the line we might try to play up more of the MAG background in fiction. There's some really cool stuff in there. and this would definitely fall under the "it's possible" category.
Rev, or REV, depending on if you ignore underscores or not, asks, he wants to know what your opinion is on the one mode per map versus several modes per map option. AKA, can you only play Sabotage on the Sabotage map, or should you also be able to play Domination and Acquisition and everything else on it?
And this is specifically in reference to SOCOM.
Yeah, and he says that seeing as you're a level designer, perhaps you can give some insight onto the large debate.
Yeah, I can, actually. It's interesting, because with I'm going to avoid the SOCOM side of it for now.
That's why
I'll go right to MAG. With MAG, it's one of those things where if you add more game types to a specific map, you have the less risk of fractioning the audience, especially with the queues and the wait times and things like that. So that's kind of a pro to having more game types per map. Now, back on the SOCOM side, having done this for SOCOM II, it's tempting to try to want to load up a map with as many game types as possible, but you end up diluting the map. The actual physical space has to accommodate so many different ways of playing the map that it all kind of feels the same. And in some cases, it's stronger just to take a key or a primary game type and really play that up. And then, if it works to have other game types on there, go for it. But it helps make the map more memorable. People start to link up, oh, it's this map in this game type. There's something to be said about that.
Death Awaits wants to know if there's going to be a shotgun and explosive knockdown animation like there were in previous SOCOMs.
I would seriously doubt it. I don't believe there currently is one. Being a fan of the knockdown in previous ones, I always push for it, but it's always met with a no. The reason that I liked it was you throw a grenade, get a lucky shotgun shot, and you knock the guy down. And you basically have a couple free seconds to just sit there looming over them. They know they're finished, but it added a little bit more drama to the game. Mm-hmm. But picture it from the other guy's perspective. He's the guy knocked down. He's basically unable to do anything with his controller for a third of a second, half a second. That's really frustrating. So I can't see it coming back in right now, but I do get the kind of hardcore perspective on that.
My Stain wants to know, it's not mine, it's the dude's name. He says, can you give us examples of what to expect in upcoming MAG maps? Say that 58 times fast.
Beyond
with balance,
Thunderdome.
Beyond Thunder, with balance retweaking.
Sure. Well, kind of getting into that balance area again, but we did do a pass on some of the maps pretty shortly after release, where we went through and we found the areas that were kind of problematic. Dropping out of the boat in the Raven 256 map and being instantly airstriked, or not even dropping out of the boat, just having a strike go off on your head. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't that fun. And that's one of those things that we can look at, putting some sort of coverage over, add some extra protection for the Raven guys coming out, and down the line, if they're more successful exiting their spawn, they're going to have a higher portion of their guys getting into the objectives, which in turn gives them more presence there and could help the Raven turn the tide on that.
Right.
Is there any sort of bipod mounting or deployment system in SOCOM 4 like MAG has? Our old friend Mashed Potatoes wants to know.
Mashed taters. Mashed taters, precious.
I think there is. I've definitely know that there is for the enemy AI doing a lot of single-player missions right now. We have specific spots set up where Machine Gun Guy will run up and deploy his gun and just spray fire across the area. But I'd have to check on the multiplayer side of that.
All right, Commander Stitch wants to know, since Contra was your favorite non-zipper game, as mentioned on your zipper profile, did you ever beat it on the NES with the default 3 lives, a.k.a. not using the infamous Contra code?
No, I don't think I did. One of the reasons why Contra stood out as a favorite was it was really the first time that I'd played a military co-op game. I loved that. And not having a Nintendo growing up until later, I'd always have to go to a friend's house, and we'd do the up, down, left, right, BA, select, start for 2-player.
Yeah, select is 2 players, right.
So we'd always do that. And, playing it 2-player, you're leeching lives off each other, so I don't think we ever really did it with 3 lives. But, it had a pretty big impact being a fun co-op shooter.
You know what's
experience.
funny is I just realized this is you read the contra code online. Some people will say BA start, which is correct for one player, or BA select start, and I guess depending on how somebody says the contra code, you can determine whether they're playing two-player or not at all times. So I find that interesting. Jeremy, do you want to read the next question? You're staring at me like I'm gonna pass out from sickness and you're talking gibberish.
X wants to know if he already knows there's no health bar in S4.
And there's no Heath bars either.
No Heath bars. We revealed that in last week's podcast. But what we didn't clarify, and what he'd like to know is, does that mean that there is or isn't health regeneration, or are we going back to the older SOCOM method of using health packs? Hook them up.
I'm going to have to ask the rest of the guys about this one because I never get hit. I don't know.
Oh, Lord.
Sorry.
Weird.
Yeah, that's terrible.
There's health regeneration.
Yeah, there is health regeneration. You'll get down to low health, and the screen effects kick in, let you know that you're low on health.
I'll tell you what I like about a health regeneration, though, is the fact that it's not immediate. You don't just walk off to the side and then it's back. Right, you really have to take cover and make sure you don't get hit for a little bit before it starts coming back. And it comes back slowly, too, which I also like.
To clarify, if we're speaking on this yet, is this single player or multiplayer or both?
We can
Or
only
is
talk
this
about
no
single
comment?
player right now, right?
There's no comment.
Yeah.
To be determined, I guess is the proper answer for right now.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, somebody would have asked that question regardless, so it's got to be on the show.
That's right.
Yeah.
Where was I? Oh, yeah.
Al yo-yo.
Yo-Yo asks, in Mag, what are the chances that we have an OIC-specific strike command? The existing abilities are useful, but he thinks that OIC should have a strike for themselves.
They don't work for a while until they get higher pay?
No, different type of strike.
Oh, okay.
We've considered OIC strikes for a while. It's one of those things where we didn't want to put too much player in one player's hands, or too much power in one player's hands. They have a lot of abilities to sway the tide of battle, and giving them something to physically drop strikes on something was maybe a little bit overkill. And plus, it's more fun the more people can do it, and a lot of those strikes were better fits for the squad and platoon leaders. That's not to say that something wouldn't ever be put back on the OIC level. There's been some brainstorming sessions on some additional leadership abilities. So I would keep your ears open.
Pretty good.
You know what it's time for?
The zip tip.
Last week, we got caught up in the conversation about zombies
Yes.
and defending yourself against zombies and what happens during the zombie apocalypse and teaching your children to be ready for the zombie. Anyway,
We forgot.
all of that. Yeah, we forgot to do a zip tip
Forgot
last week.
to-
So Jeremy, you're gonna fill us in with a little placeholder for last week, and
That's
then we'll
right.
get to CJ's zip tip.
So we never asked Ed what he was going to say, and we still don't know what he would have said, but I'm going to give you my own zip tip. And that's this, that if you're cooking spaghetti, and you wanted to have your spaghetti al dente.
Spaghetti.
Yeah, spaghetti. There you go. Chris is Italian.
Not really.
If
I
you
played
want it al
Mario.
dente, which means, anyway, who cares? But if you want to have it and you want to test it, one way to do it is to take out a noodle and you throw it against your wall. And if it sticks, you can bet that it's probably al dente, just enough. I do want to give one little extra sub-tip to this, though. Don't do that with spaghetti sauce,
Yeah.
because that's a lot harder to get out of your wall, and it has nothing to do with telling you how done it is.
CJ, what is your zip tip for the week?
That's a good one. Is it wrong to tell people to
It's never wrong.
sneak into E3 and check out the SOCOM 4 demo?
No. Sneak in E3 and check it out.
Yeah, it's amazing. That is why I said S4 is amazing. It's just the production level in the mission is really good.
It really has gotten better every day. Every day that we've seen it. There's always a new build to check out, and every time we check it out, they've added something. Adds a little bit more personality, a little bit more atmosphere, a little bit more intensity. It's pretty sweet.
A little bit more lovin'.
That's right.
Uh,
Or
speaking
Mick
of lovin',
Lovin' for you Superbad fans.
Speaking of lovin', if you want some more Zipper lovin', you can follow us on Twitter at simply Zipper, at Zipper. You can also find us on Facebook if you search for Zipper Interactive. Look for the big red Z.
That's right. Another way you can get to us is to email us, like we mentioned earlier, zipline at zipperint.com, or you can also do podcasts at zipperint.com. Up to you. It'll get to us either way.
Yeah, send it to Zipline. And remember, like Jeremy was saying before, we're going to do audio kind of readouts. If you want to take part in that, send us an MP3 file, 10 seconds or less. And please, I cannot stress this enough, also repeat your question in text form in the email so it's easier for us to deal with, and so that we can read your question if we don't actually play it.
One thing we left out is it needs to be in English, because if we don't understand it, we can't answer you.
Correct.
That's the
Correcto
key.
mundo.
There you go.
Telefono.
You're beating my... Never mind. Beating my own point.
Yeah.
Next week's guest is Mag designer Ben Jones. He's done quite a lot of good work on Mag, and he riled up some Xbox fans with a quote that was attributed to him around launch. Some of you may remember that. Did he really say it? If he did say it, what did he mean by it? Also, why the hell is he so tall? He's a tall... You're tall, too.
Yeah, we got
It's a conspiracy, man.
Yeah, we got a bunch of tall designers.
Maybe that's why his name is short. It's to compensate for the tallness of his physique.
His name isn't Short.
Ben Jones. It's a pretty short full name.
I thought you meant his name was Ben Short.
No,
Where did you get that from?
I don't know.
But anyway, thank you very much, CJ, for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I'm glad that you came here. I'm glad that you had fun. We'll bring you back.
Great. I have more to say.
The future.
That's right. Back to the Future.
Yeah. Is there anything that you wanted to say, speaking of which, before we left?
Yeah, I could go on and on about the evolution of the SOCOM design.
Go ahead.
Oh, really?
No.
Fine.
You mentioned this earlier, but why don't you give us there's got to be something on your mind that's like, man, this was crazy. I think everybody should know about it. Why don't we hear that?
No, one of the things that I do want to talk about with the SOCOM evolution was that the earlier SOCOMs were all about realistic military experiences, and we had consultants come in, and we actually went out and played airsoft with some Navy SEALs as well, and got shot up. But we did a lot of background research on real SEAL behaviors, and over time, as the series has evolved, we're starting to kind of play up the fun aspects of the game a little bit more than just being tied to the realistic aspects. So there's a lot more emphasis on story, a lot more bells and whistles in the newer versions, and it's been a lot of fun to watch that evolution
And play, more importantly.
Oh yeah, totally.
One last thing before we go. To all of our fellow Americans out there, Memorial Day is coming this weekend, so don't forget to honor all of our fallen heroes out there. They did die in the line of duty so that we could all do what we do every day. Thanks to them. Remember that over this weekend. And until next time, thank you, Chris. Thank you, CJ.